Howdy y'all, Bobby from SkyeBrowse here. I've got a lot of questions asked from some of our customers about the different tools because we've been going on a tooling spree, adding in a bunch of new tools into SkyeBrowse because ultimately there's quite a few companies that make 3D models out there, and what differentiates us is how easy it is, how quick it is, and also how extensive our tools are. So these are purpose-built tools that give you the analysis and information within your 3D model itself. So I'll jump right on into it by showing you a 3D model that I made myself. I'm going to go ahead and click View Model on the card, and you'll be able to see this animation that loads for your 3D models. In the case that you're doing a lot of measurements, you can also click during this animation and it'll go right into your model as well. Before we get started, I just want to show you how to navigate around the viewer itself. So there's a few navigation ways to navigate around this. The easiest is just you left click and you can rotate around a certain area. And if you right click and hold, then you can pan, so you can drag it around this way. And the third way is double clicking on a point, and that'll zoom into that point. So you'll be able to just focus on a certain point. Suppose I want to focus on this corner over here, you just double click and you can see now I'm focused on this point. On the left hand side, we split our tools between measure and create tools. So measure tools are anything that will give you analysis on the scene itself. And create tools over here will allow you to create videos, generate AI-based floor plans or CAD site plans as well. You can also generate factual diagrams and a whole slew of things. And we'll go over the view tools because the view tools are pretty cool. The first thing that we have is the POV tool. If you click it and then you choose an area, it puts you in that perspective. So now I'm looking like I'm standing on top of this roof right here, just looking out and looking at that perspective. So pretty cool tool, POV tool. Next tool we have is the heat map tool. It gives you an elevation profile of the area. So you can see that the brighter the color, the higher it is, and the darker the color, the lower it is. So it gives you a nice looking gradient color, giving you quick elevation. Speaking of elevation, we can also turn this into a topographical map with the Topo tool. Click here, and you see how fast that is. It's instantaneous. It's crazy. With the Topo tool, you can basically get topography contours. You can also customize it. Oh, I want to start it at, say, 20 feet in the air. So anything underneath 20 feet or so will not have any sort of contours. It'll start at a higher elevation. So then I can also make the spacing more tight. So it shows you more spacing or less spacing just with these sliders. And then you also have the contour levels. So just based off of this is your legend to see how far each of these spacings are based off of the coloring. If you wanted more finer details, say I wanted a cross section of this, we can use a slope map. A slope map is cool because you just left click twice, then you right click, and it gives you the contour. So you can see now it has a cross section of this 3D model. And you can see how fast it updates in real time. I can change it up to get a different cross section. I can move these dots, and it'll automatically give you cross section. And also you get measurements right here, relative measurements accurate to 1/10 of an inch, and on the X, Y, and Z axis. All right, so the next tool I want to go over is the line of sight tool. And this is something that I'm pretty excited about. I built it myself based off of a lot of user feedback. And with the line of sight tool, it allows you to see either where a person can see or where a camera can see or who can see what in a certain area. The easiest way to describe this is by showing you an example. So in this case, I have UVU. This is Utah Valley University, and this was mapped out in about a 10-minute drone flight by partners at Public Safety UAS. Inside here, you can see the entire campus, and one interesting thing is that if I zoom in here, this is where Charlie Kirk held his event. So with the line of sight tool, you click and you choose the area, you put in a name, and let's just start off with this. So the first thing that you see is it says 0.9 feet. You can put it above the surface, say 6 feet tall. So now you can see his perspective when he is at a certain area. So you can move this around. Whatever is in green is what that person or perspective can see based off of that line of sight. But what's pretty neat is you can also click here and also go directly into their line of sight. So now you can see what they can see as well. Another thing that you can do is with this, you can also adjust this to who can see me. Now, with this tool, Now, everything in red is people that can't see him, and everything in green is people that can, or areas that can see him. So we actually found out that the suspected gunman was here, laying prone, when he was when Charlie Kirk was shot. So this is really good for tactical Overwatch as well as situational awareness. And then we just released this feature. Now, on top of that, you can take it one step further. On the left-hand side, there's also security coverage. So if you wanted to customize this, say I want to put 5 officers around here, you click this. Now, all of a sudden, it will now place automatically officers on the scene or security guards on the scene to cover the area. So all that area that was green is now covered with this coverage. And then you place the markers, and now you have exact locations on where to place officers, maybe on rooftops or security guards on rooftops, just to get a better vantage point to cover that line of sight as a whole. Now, you can also customize it. So instead of, say, officers, you can also customize it as cameras. So I want 3 cameras around this area, and they'll mock up cameras around the area. So you can also adjust this in case they're not on poles or anything. You can bring it down and move the cameras to cover these areas as well. So that is the line of sight tool. One thing I want to talk about also is the search functionality. You can just click here, you can type in something like, suppose I want to do a line of sight, type in LOS, then automatically, instead of me having to find the tool, you can just search it, and now I have a line of sight down here. You can also use the power search, which is just using your keyboard as well. So Command K for Macs, and then your latest tool will show up. Suppose I want a topographical map. I can just automatically do that without having to find the topo tool and then clicking there. Same thing on Windows, you press Control K, and then suppose I wanted to do a distance measurement, then I can type this and press enter, and then there you go. You've got a measurement right here without having to click on any of the tools. So pretty neat. You can also see down here, there's also an undo and redo. So suppose I wanted to remove some of the line of sights, the different things I can do, just click undo a few times. And if I accidentally mess something up, I can also redo it as well with the redo tool. Let me go ahead and remove this. So I just removed a bunch of stuff, and you can see with the undo, now everything is back, just like that. Neat. All right, sun shadow. This is good for solar inspections. You just click here and automatically turns this into a sun and shadow study. So this shows you where the sun would go based off of your current time of day. So you can change it to some day in the past as well. And then you can play this. So this is what it looks like. You can see now it's an overcast day in the middle of May. A little overcast, so a lot less sun shadow. So that's pretty neat, and there's quite a few configurations you can do in here, but it's a nice visualization for either documenting exactly what happened during that time of day, what the say the shadows were for investigation, or for surveying any sort of solar panel layouts. Would this be a good position for solar panels? Let's see. It seems so. It seems like there's not that many shadows, maybe some near the HVAC units right here, maybe some over here, so you would want to position it where it minimizes shadows over here. So that is the sun and shadow study. Now we also have a clip tool. This basically allows you to remove certain areas. So if I click on outside, it cuts it out. And of course you can just use these sliders to drag it around and update it. Or for instance, if I only wanted this building, you can also rotate this as well. If I only wanted this building, I can click on inside, and now only the inside shows on this building. So that's the clip tool. It's nice to basically segment the model itself, and you'll be able to see only the parts that you want to see within the model. Okay, there's a flip model button. It's also down here in the bottom center as well. So this just flips the model upside down. That's about it. So sometimes our system, it might give you an upside down model. So you would just use the flip tool to just flip it back up. All right, so next tool is the scale tool as well. This isn't a great model for it because it's already to scale, but let me just open up another model. So this model is not to scale, and the first thing that you'll see is on the top left. It says GPS logs not available. Use the scale tool. And you can actually see on here that the scale tool is pulsing. So what the scale tool does is you have a known measurement in this case. So if I take a measurement right now, because it's not to scale, you can see this is completely off. Now with the scale tool, just click 2 points within the model. So the known measurement, say this is 10 feet, and I rescale it, you can immediately see that my other measurement has been rescaled to 10 feet. So these should all be 10 feet now or so, right? So that's essentially the scale tool in a nutshell. Allows you to immediately get measurements based off of a known distance. So now every single part of this 3D model is now to scale, and you can see there's no pop-up here. The Reorient tool, that's only useful if you have a slanted model. In this case, this model is not slanted, but I'll try to make it slanted for the sake of using the Reorient tool. What you want to do is, if this model is slanted, it looks a little strange, I can't really navigate it, it's kind of hard to use it. You find the ground plane, so any sort of flat ground surface, let's say right here, and then I'm going to use the Reorient tool, click 3 points on the ground. And there you go, it's automatically now level. We also have an import tool. Down here, the import tools, you can either import images, so I can just put down an image. I just have a random image. You can also make the background transparent, and now it is overlaid within the 3D model itself. So let me just put this factual diagram in here. You can see that I've imported a factual diagram. You can see that I've imported a factual diagram into the system. If I click here, I can also move it around, adjust it, I can rotate it, just like with the rotation tool before. One pretty neat thing, which is our 3D overlays. With 3D overlays, you can essentially import other SkyeBrowse models and have multiple SkyeBrowse models all within one 3D model. So in this case, I'm going to get the interior of the scene. I walked it with a 360 camera, and look at that. Now you have the interior, and you have a few options to resize and move all of the stuff around here. So you'll see that here's the 3D model. You can see it's not perfectly aligned right now. So what I'm going to do is, you got this resizer to make it bigger or smaller. You got these arrow keys to move it around. And if I press R or go ahead and click that rotate button, now you got this rotation. So I'm going to rotate it so it is level. I'm going to look at this axis. It looks like it's a little bit too high. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and click that and then move it down a little bit more. So it's level to the ground level. Looks good. I'm going to resize it again to make sure that it covers the entirety of the outside. So I'm going to use these arrow keys to move the slider, rotate it slightly like that. Press E to move. You can see that some parts of it I did not map out. Some of the doors were locked, so it's not fully complete, but you can see now you have both the exterior and the interior. Looks like it's a little bit high, so I'm going to move that down a little. Just like that. And now you have the exterior and interior all in one go. So that's the model overlay tool, and there's a few options here. If I don't want to click it, or if I want to hide it, I can just click that eyeball button and hide it. I can also lock the layer so that when I click it, that pop-up to move it around doesn't show up anymore. I can delete it. If I did something that I didn't like, I can always undo it as well. And then there you go. Up next, we're going to talk about Create Tools. So on the Create tab over here, there's two separations. Basically, this gives you the deliverables, what you can share and export out to other people from SkyeBrowse. And we added a lot of new tooling for that. So we'll start off with the screenshot tool. You click it, you have a few options. You can do the current view, which gets your current view, saves a screenshot. You can see what it looks like over here. If you have any annotations or measurements, that'll also show up in your screenshot. So pretty neat. In this case, it also, if your model is georeferenced, it'll also give you the position that the viewer is looking at. So in this case, it's 67 degrees northeast. Screenshot tool also has the entire scene. So if you do that, you'll take a screenshot of the entire scene. This is what it looks like over here, where you now also get a scale bar on the bottom. And also on the top, there's a compass, and it's a north up compass right here. Next one is sketch drawing. It's basically the same thing as screenshot. So you got current view and entire scene. And what it does is it creates a sketch drawing of this current view. You can also make it darker by moving the slider bar or make it lighter that way. You can easily download it or remove it that way. And the same thing with the entire scene. It just does the sketch top down of the entire scene. Pretty straightforward. There's also AI floor plan. Basically, it generates a floor plan of your scene. It's mostly for interior models. In this case, I don't have one. So you can either do a select area where it allows you to choose a certain area, like say a certain area that you want as a floor plan, or you could also do the full model and it'll generate a floor plan and overlay it on top of the model. So that's pretty neat, and it doesn't make sense to do it on this model because this is an exterior model, but we'll move on to the AI site plan. So this gives you a CAD drawing. It's pretty sweet because it uses AI to trace the model. So you can do the top option, the site plan, which gives you the entire model. So here it is, overlaid on top of it. You can also click here and you can get the CAD site plan. You can download it as an image, or you can also put it as a DXF, which is a pretty open source format that works with just about every single CAD software out there. What's pretty neat is also for the site plan, you can also do the wall elevation. This is a brand new tool. You just choose a few points along the wall. Say I want this wall right here where I'm mocking up a install, and you can see how it covers the wall, and within just a few seconds it'll just get the outline of the wall, and now you have both the measurement, the annotation, as well as the DXF like that. So now you can also see it's overlaid on top of the model, which is also pretty neat. I can also download that, put it into CAD software just like that. So when I put it into the CAD software, it'll also include the measurements, the text as well. If you put any text, any sort of draw tools, so you can kind of see how all of this links together in a nice cohesive plan. Next tool we have is the Flythrough video. With Flythrough videos, we have a whole lot of different videos that you can use. From the top, you can choose how long you want the video. I want this to be short or longer. You can make it HD or 4K, and also you can choose different options. There's a whole slew of options. One of my favorite ones is Measurement Tour. What it does is you can see it'll just visit all the measurements they've taken automatically throughout the model. So pan around in the model and zoom on in and get some more details of the different measurements. So that's a pretty neat tool. It downloads it directly to your downloads folder afterwards. Okay, so scrolling down, we also have a few other things. We have the Factual Diagram. Factual Diagram is for public safety, for specifically accident reconstruction. So you do some annotations. In this case, I already have a few annotations. You can put down a label. So I can go ahead and do 123 Main Street. Place it down. And then afterwards, you put down a reference point, just a stationary object that won't move in position. Put down case number, description, and you click generate. And what it'll do is it'll take like a few seconds and you'll get a 4-page PDF out of it. So first page gives you the top-down overview with the compass as well as the scale bar. Second page is the factual diagram with the sketch, the name of the annotation, and also the reference point. Third page shows you the measurements as well as any sort of annotations that you put down there. So it's all relative to the reference point on the X, Y, and Z axis. And then the fourth page is your description, anything you want to write into it. We'll start off by going through the measurement tools. It's split between tools, view, which changes the view of the model, import, if you want to import anything into the model, and model statistics, which is just stats on the model itself. So we'll start off by going over the tools. So I'll hide everything else and start with the annotation tool, which is pretty straightforward. You click annotate, you type in something, and then you can click confirm and put down an annotation. And there's some more advanced stuff into the annotations, but if you go ahead and click annotation and type in, say, events, this is a community center. So you can put down a URL. So this is just like a web page or a link. So I have an Eventbrite right here, and I click confirm, and now it's events. So when I go ahead and click events, you can see that it pops up another window with that link that you've added in to there. So that's pretty neat. You can also attach images to the annotation. It'll pop up images. I don't have one right now. And you can also save current view. So if I want to focus specifically on, say, this perspective, then I can go here, type in Community Center, click on Save Current View, and put it here. And now, whenever I'm within this 3D model, I click here, it'll zoom me right on in to that current view. So that's pretty useful within the annotations. You can see on the bottom left that there is also an object tree. So you click here and this shows you every single measurement that or annotation that you've placed down. So you can hide them. So if I wanted to hide, say, for instance, events, I can just go ahead and hide that and it's hidden from your model. You can also pop it up again or delete it. So I'm going to go ahead and delete these so that I can clear the 3D model and show you the next tool. And the next tool is the distance tool. So go ahead and click it and you choose two areas, two parts of the model or multiple parts by left click. And you can see that it doesn't go away after you've done your left clicks. You have to right click to exit out like that. So that allows you to exit out of the distance tool and you can see that there is now the distance over here. And you can also drag it around and update it by hovering over the points. You can also delete it pretty easily by deleting either a single point or deleting the entire distance measurement. So that's distance. And for best practices, when you're taking distance measurements, what I recommend is looking down at the model like this so that it's fully flat. That way you get a perfect measurement. You can zoom in, make sure you position yourself first, and then take that distance measurement to get that perfect measurement. So you can see that this is 4 feet. When you don't do that, occasionally it's possible to misplace your distance measurement. So suppose I'm not looking perfectly down and I want to measure this building from this facade to this facade. You can see that it looks okay at first, but then when you zoom in and look at it from different perspectives, it turns out that I completely missed the model itself. So whenever you're taking measurements, it's best to look perfectly down, zoom in, make sure you're looking perfectly down at it, and then take that distance measurement. Okay, now I'll delete this measurements to clear the model. All right, so next tool we have is the draw tool. Pretty self-explanatory. It's basically like the distance, except there's no distance in it. So you can draw in straight lines. You can draw with arrows. So if I want to place an arrow pointing in a certain direction, you can do that. And of course, you can also edit it by dragging and dropping this and moving it around. So that's the draw tool. And also there's a curvy arrow. So you just click multiple times and the arrow will curve around. So now you've got yourself a curvy arrow where you can make it point in certain directions. One thing that you can do if you have a bunch of measurements and you want to just delete it, just click remove all and confirm, and there you go. It's good to go. Let's see. So next, what we have is a label tool. With the labels, you just type in something, say 100 Main Street, click confirm, and now you can place it onto your 3D model, just like that. So now you have it placed, but I didn't do a good job placing it. Go ahead and click on the left panel and that will select it. You can either move it around, but I want to put it on this main street over here, right? So you can go to rotate and now you can rotate this label, make it look nice. Also resize it, make it a little smaller as well, rotate, and it's good to go. Now you have 100 Main Street here. And once you're done with that, you can always lock this so you don't accidentally click it and move it around anymore. So now I have a label within this 3D model. Next thing is a GPS tool. If you go ahead and click it, you can place down a GPS point. Pretty straightforward. And also, if you click here on the little map, it'll actually pop open a Google map of the area. So you can see the community center right here where we place down that GPS. Speaking of GPS and compass, you also see that if your model is geo-referenced, that means if you uploaded the 3D model with the subtitle files or use the SkyeBrowse flight app for it, there's a geo-reference, which means that there are GPS coordinates for every single point of the model itself. So you can see over here that it shows you a little mini map of the area as well as where the camera is looking. It shows you the direction as well. So you can see that I'm facing east right now. You can also copy this by clicking it. Copy the GPS coordinates. You can put it into Google Maps. You can put it into a text message, MDT, like a CAD system or Esri. You can put it anywhere, just like that. If you click it, you can also change it to a compass. So this is now facing north. You can see the tip, the SkyeBrowse logo is where the direction you are. And you can also minimize that by clicking it again. It's just the minimal version, just showing you the compass and the positioning itself. Okay, so that is the GPS tool. Now, next thing is the area tool. So once I click area, you can just click around and it'll automatically calculate an area for you, just like that. So it gives you the area, and of course you can always just drag and move this around to change up the area. One question we get is, well, what if I want this in inches, or I want it in yards, or imperial measurements, or metric measurements? Well, go to View, and under Units, you can just change it to meters, for instance, or you can go back to feet, just like that. So it's pretty easy to get the area, and that area is calculated on the spot as you move it. So that's the area tool. We also have an angle tool. Angle tool works very, very similarly to the distance tool. So if I want to find the angle of these conduits, make sure that it's a nice 90-degree right angle. Just click here. We're just going to follow the conduit line down to here. You can see it's close to 90 degrees. So it's not a perfect 90-degree conduit, but 88.2 degrees, pretty good for a contractor. So that's the angle tool, and of course you can always just adjust it, drag it, and update it with the angle. So the next one is the slope tool. This is really good because it automatically gives you a right triangle. It gives you distance, it gives you the angles as well. So 27 degrees, and this is always going to be 90 at the green, and it also gives you distance. So for any sort of slope positioning, if you're, say, for instance, figuring out how long you need to extend a ladder for a ladder truck in order to reach this building, then you can use the slope tool very easily to determine, oh, I need this ladder to be extended 46 feet or so at this angle. So that gives you the slope very easily. Also useful for a whole lot of other applications. For instance, bullet trajectory. If you look at gunshot trajectory, then you can also use that to determine the angle of entry and egress as well as determining the gradients on roads for the engineering use case. The next one's the volume tool. With the volume tool, you can calculate volume of aggregates, construction piles, any sort of concrete, debris, you name it, with a few easy clicks. So what you want to do with the volume tool is go ahead and click it and choose the rough edges around it. It doesn't have to be crazy precise. So in this case, I have a concrete aggregate, and I just clicked around all the areas, and I'm going to right click, and that'll automatically get me the volume itself. So if I want more details on it, I can also, under the configuration, change the density to change the weight. You can see there's different presets as well. So maybe I want this to be sand, for instance. It'll change the weight of it based off of whatever you choose. So volume tool, very easy to use. You can also adjust this by changing these little dots to change the volume itself. And it'll adjust just like that. You can also change the volume unit measurement as well. Just by changing it, you can see it automatically updates as well to yardage, square cubic meters as well. And I'm going to go back to feet because I am American. All right, so volume tool, very good. Automatically calculates the volume. Very, very accurate, by the way. On our enterprise tiers, it's accurate to 3% accuracy, which is, or 97% accuracy. So only off by 3%. So it's extremely, extremely accurate when calculating the volume of aggregates, any sort of dirt piles, concrete piles for crushed concrete, debris piles as well. For disaster response, you automatically get those volumes like that. I can also just hide the tools by clicking on hide all. It'll hide everything. You can see now it's a clean model. So let me get rid of the volume tools and go over the next one, which is the icons. This is more for pre-plans than anything else, but we did update this with 350 icons. It's quite a lot of icons showing you all the different types of public safety, OEM, icons. If I wanted like a commercial fire here, then I can just plop it down and now I have an icon. You can also move it around pretty easily. open up the icon tool again, say I want to go to fire. Let's say there is a tsunami going on nearby. You can also plop down this icon like that. So you can move it around, you can resize it, make it bigger, make it smaller. You can also, if you wanted the icon to be floating in the air, you can also make it float in the air. Not crazy useful for the icons. I think it's more for another tool that I'll go over in a little bit. So I'll also show you this top tab. You can see there's also a 2D view. So this gives you the automatically generated sketch drawing, as well as the 2D map, the GeoTIFF. And of course, you can download it individually as well. You got the map view over here. This just shows you your flight pattern. If you uploaded a GPS log, it shows you your videos as well. You can click on one of the videos, you can play through the video. It loads very fast. We just updated the video player, so super fast. You can see me doing the grid pattern over here. So just doing the back and forth grid, and then towards the end, I did a couple of orbits around to capture the sides of the building. So all in all, I think this was like a 5-minute flight or so. Yeah, under 5 minutes to do this flight. Just back and forth grids and an orbit to get this kind of building. You also got some details like flight details showing you, what kind of parameters we used, weather as well. So in this case, I didn't use the SkyeBrowse flight app, so weather is not available. You can download it here as well. And then this is only for backup, so there's no need to upload here. You can also add in a tag. So if you put in a tag, you can search for it later on. You can write a description and all that. So another thing is the share. So when you click on share, by default, it's private. In this case, I already made it public, but by default, it is private. So this is toggled off, and you can just toggle it on by clicking this toggle, and it gives you a few options. You can share the model with tools, which is basically everything that I showed you with all the tooling and everything. People can do analysis or export stuff out of it. You can also share the model without tools. Now it just shows you the model, but there's no tools. So it's a nice, clean looking 3D model. You can also embed this on your website. If you want to showcase one of your models on your website, you can just do that. Click on here, it gives you the code, you can just paste it on your website. Let's see, share with people. Here's the other option. This is the more secure way of sharing. If you don't want a link to share, you can also share it securely by share with people. So if I want to put in something like test 123123 at SkyeBrowse.com, and this is someone who doesn't have a SkyeBrowse email, you can see that this will invite them to SkyeBrowse. So they'll be able to get an invite to make a free account, and once they make an account, they'll be able to view your 3D model. Or if I wanted to share it with someone else, say Bobby at SkyeBrowse.com, you can also just type in B, which is pretty neat. Then you can see that you can also share it with me, for instance, because it'll say that I'm a SkyeBrowse user. So I'll get an email on the models that you share. There's also case gallery. In this case, I didn't upload any images, but you can also upload images into your system. So you can view it from here. Comments, no comments yet, but if you want to write comments, if you're collaborating with other people, you can type in a comment. There you go, put down a comment. Over here in the 3 dots, you can rename the model, reprocess it. If you're on the enterprise tiers, you can change the location. If there's something wrong with your 3D model, you can also report an issue, or you can delete the model as well. That goes over just about all of the 3D viewer and all the tooling that we added in. And we also have some other interesting side things. It's underneath the labs drop down. So underneath labs, you can see there's a few other different options like the crowd counter. We just released this. Basically, you just put in an image, and within a few seconds, it counts how many people are in a crowd. Yep. And it's free of charge. Everything under labs is free of charge, so you can just play around with any of the tooling that we have with labs. Fully experimental. We just wanted to show you some of the other stuff that we've been experimenting with under labs. And if this was helpful and you wanted more information on it, you can always go to the tutorials. There's more tutorials on how to make a good 3D model, best practices for flight patterns, how to use the DJI, our SkyeBrowse DJI flight app, and various other tutorials are underneath the video tutorial tab. All right, hopefully this was helpful. I gotta run, but make sure you like and subscribe to this video, and I'll catch you in the next one.